this message is just for you. You are good enough. This is the episode for you. Today I wanted to talk about a topic that I think is being really neglected in the language learning and language teaching world, which is how we can navigate triggers in our language learning. Now, I don't foresee this episode containing anything that should in itself be triggering, and it doesn't have any specific content or trigger warnings attached to it. But listen to your instinct when it tells you what you need right now. Feel free to pause this video, stop it, or just skip this message and come back tomorrow, even if you come here every single day, if that is what feels right for you. Look after yourselves. So one of the things that I think we do not talk about enough in our language learning is how the process interacts with the negative experiences in our lives. It's not like learning to code or learning woodwork. It's more like an octopus that sits and just kind of sprawls over our whole personality, our whole life experience, and our whole worldview. And that means that it is a lot more likely than most other skills that we would learn to take us to places that we don't want to go. Learning a language brings in almost every aspect of life and society and self, and it encourages you to talk about them and read about them and answer and ask questions about them. And the trouble with triggers is that some of them are predictable and you can kind of plan for them in advance, but others come completely out of left field. So I've split the trigger sources into two for the purpose of this video. One, the actual topics of conversation, and two, the triggers over language learning content. And so this is how I have dealt with them over the last years in my language learning. Number one, topic-based triggers. These are the ones that come from the subject matters that are covered in language learning. Family, childhood hobbies, your school days, employment, current affairs, or questions that bleed into systemic issues in your country. So when I was starting Portuguese back in 2020, I had more no-go areas than I had ever had before. And it made me incredibly nervous to commit to language exchanges. I was simultaneously struggling with huge upheavals in my life. Unstable housing, unemployment, I'd just lost my job in the pandemic, bereavement, Brexit, and of course, the pandemic and everything that came with it. We were living and working and sleeping in one double bed, in one room, and I'd lost, I think it's fair to say, all perspective of who I was, what I was good at, and my life felt like it was in free fall. And none of that was conducive to meeting lots of new people and doing the normal language learning type conversations that you would have in those environments. All the basic small talk questions felt like they would just be too awkward. The answers would either be evasive or they'd be works of fiction, and I didn't quite know what to do about it. So I did two main things. The first was that I made sure that our language exchanges were structured. We planned our topics the day or the week in advance, which, apart from having the obvious benefits for vocab and grammar preparation, it also meant that there were fewer surprises for me. And I set the questions every time in advance. My language exchange partner could agree to them or not, although actually no one ever requested changes, but the option was there. And then when we were studying a topic that I thought might be, a little bit difficult, We'd start our session just testing each other on vocabulary. So for something like jobs, we would be doing a bit of a quiz for each other at the beginning about all the different types of jobs that there were. And then we would answer questions that we both knew were coming. And it took the scariness away. And the second thing is, whether this is in language exchanges or just in the topics that you are covering yourself by reading, watching things, whatever it might be, when the world feels full of triggers, take the focus out of your world and into the space around you. So if you are doing online language exchanges, that might look like doing more tours of where you are. Not necessarily your house, if that's part of the problem or if it feels too personal, but parks, shops, looking at street signs, going onto online stores and sharing your screen with your partner, going on Google Images or Pinterest together to find things to explore there. It's super valuable for you and for your language exchange partner. And it takes all the pressure off you to have your life in order, because this is kind of escapism. You can go onto Google Images, you can find pictures of gorgeous countries, interesting clothes, food that you both want to talk about, anything you want, animals, anything you want. It takes all the pressure off you to have your life in order. And then as soon as your language level allows, move out of the topics in your immediate world and move on to the bigger questions. Time travel, magic powers. All these things are really effective language learning techniques anyway, but you know what? They're also excellent self-protective measures. And the second kind of trigger is around the language learning process itself. All the things that sting when you see people doing them, because they're not an option for you in terms of time, money, visas, life circumstances, whatever it might be. It might be that people are learning their languages through methods that aren't available to you. You know, you're on social media, you're talking to friends and you're watching them enroll in foreign universities to study their language, or they're going on courses, or they're hiring a private tutor. It might be things that are closer linked to where you are in life. Things like unboxing videos when you're in a period of financial instability, watching people travel the world or start their new life abroad, or discussing bilingual parenting when that door is shut for you. And for you, I would say this: you can be a really good linguist and not watch that stuff. You can be an excellent linguist and skip those episodes while you heal and you come to terms with where your life's at. It's not petty, it's not immature, and you have every right to say no to the things that you just don't want to or cannot deal with right now. So as a quick summary for this video, I often say that language learners don't have superpowers, but we're also not superhuman either. If you find that the language world is full of triggers for you, you are not alone. And it's okay to do what feels okay in your language. Remember, this is your path. You can skip topics if you want to, or you can redesign them so that you learn the bits of them that feel okay and skim over the bits that don't. You can make friends in your new language and be your authentic self without sharing your whole story or answering questions that you don't want to. So look after yourself, language learners, and if you've got any more tips or tricks that you've been using to make the language world a little bit safer for you during a vulnerable time, please feel free to share them in the comments. We need an absolutely wonderfully big toolbox for this. Have a lovely, peaceful day. I hope it's productive, and I will see you tomorrow.